Hello everyone, my name is Blake representing the Duelist Club. Today I am going to be showing you GraveKeeper's pretty much. Now, before I start this, I do want to say some things. Of course I want to say something. I always do during these things, but there's some important things I want to say, so just bear with me before we begin this. First, I am going to be doing a couple more things on the channel, so be aware of what's going to be updated. I have a couple more deck profiles that I'm going to be doing, especially one update, and I'm also going to be doing some more lore videos, a little bit better though. I'm going to make them a lot better than what I did last time. I'm going to try my hardest to make those as perfect as I can, so you won't see those as much, but I will make those as best as I possibly can. Especially, you'll also see, of course, more deck profiles. This is not going to end. The profiles are not going to end. I'm going to try doing some more unboxing things just to show you guys what's going on. And I do want to show you when it comes out is the new Gold Sarcophagus 2019 Mega Tin. It looks beautiful. I love the ideas, all the things that are in it. It is amazing. I have seen some stuff in there, and I can't wait to show it on this channel when it comes out. So please bear in mind there's going to be a couple videos that will come out over time. I'm sorry you heard that. Something happened outside. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin. Just be aware that there are some videos that are coming out over time. Now, I do want to say something about this deck. This is not... Don't take this deck to Nationals or Worlds or wherever you want to go play. Just play this. This is definitely a deck you just want to play at a natural, local spot that you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or go ahead and play this with friends or something like that. Even if you're... it's not that... This is not normally going to be a competitive deck, especially when you're at such thing that is for competitive play. Now, I have made this the best competitive version I can possibly make it, excluding Extravagance, because that card is $65, and I don't think anyone wants to pay for that right now unless you have pulled it. So, if you have it, definitely run it, but I don't have it, so I'm not running it. So let's go ahead and begin. So the first three are we're going to go ahead and go with the monsters. For the monsters, I definitely run 3 Command It gets out Necro Valley. If you don't know what this deck is about, it's about searching out your Necro Valley and using your monster effects on your monster effects and your card effects with Necro Valley. Now, this one is just your searcher, so you don't need Necro Valley on the field. It's just a searcher where it sends to the grave and you can search your Necro Valley, which is really, really nice. And following along with that, you want to run the 3 Recruiter. Recruiter is also a searcher, but not for Necro Valley. It is for GraveKeeper's. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one GraveKeeper monster with 1500 or less defense from the deck. Now, all of your GraveKeeper monsters, I think all of them. I think most of your GraveKeeper monsters have 1500 or less defense. That means you can even get this card out if you want. So it's just great searching right there. You want to run your search materials always. There are some expensive cards in here, especially in the extra deck, so if you feel like you don't want to go too over budget, just throw whatever you want in there, okay? I'm serious, just throw whatever you want in the extra deck. You really don't use it too much, so you don't have to follow along with what I'm doing, of course. And then for the other 2 monsters, Spiritualist is your good fusion monster. 2 mostly. You can run 3, it doesn't really matter. It's searchable. Also in the graveyard, it's searchable, and it activates in the graveyard as long as you have the materials to use to fusion summon the monster that you're using. So it's really good for that reason, but I just run 2. I also run 2 Headsmen. I've seen people run this at 3, I've seen people run it at 2. I've even seen a deck where they ran it at 1 or none, so I run 2. It's like a free monster reborn if you have GraveKeeper's in your graveyard. Of course, it has to have a level 4 requirement, so you can't just grab any GraveKeeper. You have to have a level 4. But the good thing is there is a lot of level 4s to choose from through the deck, so hopefully you would have that during the time. 1 Heretic. You could run 3, 2, it doesn't matter. I run 1 because it's not good whenever you have Necro Valley. You don't get the buff off this card because it's unaffected by all effects. So it's kind of like the Chris the Crack of Dawn, where it's unaffected by all card effects while it's on the field. So, but with this, it's even unaffected by its own field spell. So run 1, it's kind of just a brick kind of in the deck unless you can fusion it off or keep it, you know. Either way, it's 1800 attack, so your opponent can't really do anything while it's on the field unless they can attack over it, you know. Then I also have the 1 Oracle. Oracle's really good, mostly if you're going second. Because if you go first and your opponent hasn't done anything, hopefully hasn't done anything to your board, and you can normal summon this guy, it's really good. Because either this card's attack this card can gain attack equal to the monster that was sent to the graveyard, or you can activate the other effect, which is all monsters your opponent currently controls lose like 2000 attack until the end of the phase, which means you can totally wipe out all of your opponent's cards and effects, or cards during that turn, not effects, but cards during that turn, so it's really good. Then we're going to go on to a little bit of, I guess, hand traps. This is kind of like your hand trap. I run the 3 Gamma with 1 driver. So you can run, I've seen people run Ash, I've seen people run Ogre, I've seen people run the new one, I forgot what it was called, a Little Sister something, I don't know, the green one, and then I've also seen someone run Reaper before. So I run this mostly because you do a lot of searching and it negates Ash. So if you're trying to get out your search at the beginning of the game and your opponent negates it with Ash, then you can just negate Ash, special summon this card, and then get your search out anyway. And then you also get a synchro monster with that, so it's really good for that reason. It's just really good in general, and you do a lot of searching in this deck regardless. So I run 3 Gamma, it just works for me. Might not for you, but definitely consider running 3 Gamma. It's pretty good. And the deck was upside down, so I don't want to show you this upside down. 3 Necro Valley. We're going into spells. Sorry about that. We're going into spells. 3 Necro Valley. If you don't know what this card does, it's pretty good, I guess. I don't really know. The only problem I have with it is possibly just the 500 buff. I wish they made it something different. A little bit different. I don't really care for the 500 buff effect, but, you know, you just have to kind of go with it. What I do like about it is your opponent cannot do anything in graveyard. They cannot have graveyard effects at all. Anything to do with the graveyard, you and your opponent cannot do. Anything to do with attributes or types, changing them, doing anything with them, this card immediately just stops it. So it's super good. The buff, I don't really care for the buff. It's good, but it just keeps you going with a lot of math in your head. It's not, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's good, but I wish it was something a little bit different. I wish it did read a little bit of something different. Maybe we might get a different, I highly doubt it. We're most likely not going to get a different field spell, but Necro Valley is really good anyway, regardless of the buff. So, and then we also have 3 Throne. Throne is your great searcher, and this is why I also run Gamma, because if this is the card your opponent will definitely, most likely try to Ash, because you're going to be adding a card to your hand. Normally you don't activate the second effect until your second turn, if that, so If you don't know what the second effect is, basically you can get a normal, you can make an additional normal summon, and you can also add a Gravekeeper monster to the hand, which is pretty good. This card is amazing. You always want to run 3. It is amazing. Just for your searching. Then you also, I don't see some people I don't see run this, but I run Card Demise. It's pretty good. Following along with the other searchers I run is Duality. Again, if you are as cheap as me and you don't give a crap about spending the $65 per pot of extravagance, or if you just want to go and get lucky and search for one, then go for it. But I run 2 just in case. I'm more just waiting until it gets a reprint or something happens to it, and then I would definitely run it. I 100% would definitely take extravagance over duality 100% of the way, especially when in this deck your extra deck doesn't matter at all. I run 2 Hidden Temple. You can run this at 3 if you want. It doesn't really matter. I run 2 just because it's searchable. It's nothing too hard to get out, especially on your first or second turn. It's really nothing that complicated to get out, and it has a really good effect as long as you have this. As long as you have a Gravekeeper monster and Necro Valley on the field, you and your opponent cannot normal or special summon monsters except for Gravekeeper monsters, which is super good because it just locks out your opponent. Even for a turn, it would lock out your opponent, because most likely your opponent's going to go after this card and destroy it, because you're like, I need my special summons. I need those. You know, and unless you're playing True Draco, which they just don't care, you know, it doesn't work for that, so that kind of sucks. But, you know, whatever. 2 Royal Tribute. Royal Tribute is actually, isn't it? I think it's the newest. I think it's one of the new things that came out on the ban list to semi-limited. If you don't know what it does, if you have Necro Valley on the field, all monsters in both players' hands have to be sent to the graveyard. It is amazing. Mostly, you want to run 2 because I don't really see too many monsters in my hand. And even if I do, it doesn't really matter if they're in the graveyard, because there's good ways to get them out of the graveyard anyway. So you have this, and you can really hurt your opponent with this card, especially when, you know, you're going first. It destroys them because they have no choice but to either set or pass. You know, it's amazing. Then we're gonna go for a one-offs, which is great, which is Steal. Steal allows you to grab target 2 monsters in your target 2 Gravekeepers in your graveyard and add them to your hand. And this is what I mean by it's easy to get them out anyway. This is a good card to have. I don't see it often, you know, because Royal Tribute isn't actually searchable. You have to randomly grab it, but it increases your chances since it's at 2 now. So this is why I run it at 1. I mean, it's really good, but it's not always needed. And then you have Terraforming, and then you also have the Monster Reborn. Terraforming, just in case you don't get your commandant out, and then Monster Reborn, just in case you need a monster. Yeah, pretty much. That's what Monster Reborn is for. We're going to go into our traps. There's not too many traps. Imperial Tomb of Necro Valley, which is great. It's basically like your Solemn Strikes and Solemn Warnings. It negates, as long as you have Necro Valley and a Gravekeeper monster on the field, you can negate a spell card, trap card, or a monster effect and destroy that card. It's amazing. It's just really good. Now, if you want to, you can definitely run Solemn. You can definitely run some Solemn stuff, some Solemn Strikes, Warnings, you know, and Judgments. It would be a pretty good addition for it. I just couldn't find the room for it because I really wanted to add Storming into this, just because I want to get my opponent out of the. I don't want my opponent to have very many monsters on the field when I'm trying to activate my stuff. Like I said, this is kind of you're trying to stop your opponent from doing a lot of things. And then I also run 1 Necro Valley Temple. this card's pretty good. It's as long as you have Necro Valley on the field and a Gravekeeper monster, all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. Also, it's like it grabs Necro Valley from the graveyard. It's super good. It's just, this is so awesome. So good. But I only run one because, again, it's searchable and you don't always need it. So we're gonna go on to our extra deck. I don't have a side deck yet for this yet, but there's a lot of options you can definitely go through. So I definitely mess around with the side deck a little bit. I've been doing it. It's just there's so much that could stick with it. You know, I'd have to make it its own little deck list just because of how much you can just put in the side deck. You know. Anyway, we're gonna go on to the extra deck where I run the. Ooh, no. Sorry, you didn't see that. I run the 3 Gravekeeper Supernaturalist. If you don't know what this card does, or you might have seen this card, this is your best card ever. It cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, the materials that were used to activate this card gains attack equal to the level of monsters you have sent to the graveyard for this card. Plus, you also have the Necro Valley on the field, so you get a 500 boost, plus the additional levels from the materials. So normally you would have like a 3,000 beater, a little bit over 3,000 attack monster. Also, every turn this card can make a search of a Necro Valley or a Gravekeeper monster from the deck to your hand. It's great. It's awesome. Always run 3 or 2. You can run 2 or 3. I run 3 just in case I ever get extravagance in the deck. So I run 3. Then I run 2-Wee Witch, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Cerberus. I would run a Nightmare Unicorn, but I don't have it right now. It's somewhere else. And then I also Borreload, Mech Knight Crusadia, Apollonius. Then we have the number 14, Evil Worm, Exodia package, and then we also have the Zyframe Overlord for Gamma. Now, a lot of this stuff doesn't matter. Your big monster, the biggest monster here is this. And of course, I definitely recommend, if you ever pull extravagance, if you ever have extravagance, use it. Just use it. I mean, this deck is really good with extravagance because your side deck, your extra deck doesn't matter. Like, it's a really good card to have. And that is the whole deck for right now. If there might be some updates later on in the future, of course, like how I always do that. Let me get this out real quick, and I will. There we go. And there, like I said, there will probably most likely be an update for this deck. If you have any ideas of how I should improve this deck, please let me know in the comment section. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.